After the armistice of Clausewitz, Napoleon sought a decisive battle and advanced towards Blucher. Simultaneously, Oudinot marched north towards Berlin, but suffered defeat at Groß-Beeren. Blucher retreated just as Napoleon arrived, and reports soon reached Napoleon from Marshal St-Cyr that the massive army of Bohemia was advancing towards Dresden. Napoleon left Marshal MacDonald to monitor Blucher's movements while he rapidly marched his forces towards Dresden. To cut off the Allies' potential escape routes, Napoleon dispatched Vandame's the First Corps, comprising 50,000 men. In Dresden, the capital of Saxony, Marshal St-Cyr commanded a garrison of 20,000 men. Vastly outnumbered by the approaching Allied force of 200,000, 10-1 disadvantage, St-Cyr fortified the city's defences. 5 redoubts were constructed, and artillery positions along the Elbe River secured the vulnerable left flank, while marshy terrain shielded the right. The Allies hesitate in their plans. Tsar Alexander wanted to attack quickly, believing Napoleon was far away, while Schwarzenberg wanted to wait for more troops. The Allied assault on Dresden finally began around 3 p.m. on August 26. Wittgenstein advanced, colliding with St-Cyr's defensive lines. French artillery, well positioned in the fortified redoubts and along the Elbe River, rained devastating fire on the advancing troops, resulting in heavy losses. Despite the relentless French bombardment, Kleist's Prussians pushed into the Große Garten, forcing the outnumbered French defenders to fall back toward the city. In the centre, Austrian forces launched fierce assaults on the French redoubts. After intense fighting, they succeeded in capturing the 3rd redoubt and threatened to overrun the 4th and 5th as well. The situation for St-Cyr was becoming critical. In response, St-Cyr ordered a limited counterattack, which slowed down the Allied advance. By late afternoon, Napoleon arrived on the battlefield and immediately dispatched reinforcements. Marshal Ney and Marshal Mortier led 4 divisions of the Young Guard into the city. Simultaneously, Marshal Murat led forward his cavalry and struck the Allied centre on the Friedrichstadt plain. Murat's cavalry smashed into the Austrian columns, taking an entire regiment prisoner, driving the enemy back. The French launched a counteroffensive. Ney's Young Guard divisions and St-Cyr's forces retook the 3rd redoubt. By nightfall, the French had regained nearly all of St-Cyr's original defensive positions. A torrential downpour drenched the battlefield, turning the ground into deep mud and swelling the streams. Overnight, Napoleon's forces were significantly reinforced by Victor's the Second Corps, Marmont's the Sixth Corps, and the Guard cavalry, bringing his army to 135,000 men. In contrast, the Allies fielded 215,000 troops. Napoleon identified the Allied left as a vulnerable point. Napoleon organized his forces strategically. Murat and Victor took position on the left. Marmont and St-Cyr held the centre, while Ney, supported by the Young Guard and Guard cavalry, commanded the right. The battle began at 6 a.m. with devastating cannon fire. Victor advanced, driving back the Austrians after fierce fighting. In the centre, St-Cyr took Strehlen, but a Prussian counterattack caused heavy losses. By 11 a.m., Ney and the Young Guard pushed back Wittgenstein's forces. At 11:30 a.m., Murat and Victor began their biggest attack on the Allied left. Victor's infantry advanced, pushing the Austrians back in brutal combat. Meanwhile, Murat's cuirassiers and dragoons smashed into the exposed Austrian lines, inflicting heavy losses on the Austrians. A French observed Murat cut off from the Austrian army Klenau's course, hurling himself upon it at the head of the Carabineers and cuirassiers. Nearly all Klenau's battalions were compelled to lay down their arms, and 2 other divisions of infantry had their fate. The torrential rain rendered Austrian muskets useless. Victor's divisions pushed on, capturing thousands of prisoners. By early afternoon, Allied left flank was almost destroyed. Over 15,000 men were lost. General Moreau, a former rival of Napoleon, was struck by a cannonball, crippling him. By 5 p.m., the Allies began a slow retreat, withdrawing south into the Bohemian mountains under the cover of rain and a strong rearguard. The Allies suffered a disastrous defeat, suffering heavy losses. As they retreated, they remained unaware of the looming danger. Vandam's the First Corps was poised to strike at their rear. However, for Napoleon, within 10 days, reports would arrive that would completely turn the situation on its head.